Hi, everybody. It's Patrick Haggerty from Lavender Country. This is Aunt Patty's Lavender Hour, talking to people who have influenced me in my Lavender Country journey. Today, we're interviewing somebody really special and dear to my heart. Her name is Melinda Cooper. She is the radical dyke of life and wonderment from St. Louis, Missouri. And she's been with Lavender Country for a long time. So Melinda,
Yes.
You're a local yokel in St. Louis, right?
I am.
You grew up across the river
Yep.
in a town called Granite City.
6 miles north and east of the Mississippi, right of downtown. Yeah.
And East St. Louis is kind of known for being rough and tumble.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly East St. Louis. It was a few miles out from there, but yeah. Granite City is a steel town.
It's kind of a macho environment if it's a steel town, right?
Ish. I mean, but the thing is, it's tricky because it's a union town, and it has up until probably the past 10 years or so been historically Democrat because it is so union strong.
Oh, uh-huh.
But it is.
Well, that's a plus.
Yeah, ish. Very much church,
sure.
Liquor store. Equal parts.
So
yeah.
You fall out of church and stagger to the liquor store, and that's your weekend.
Absolutely.
Was your family working class?
Yes. Yes.
And churchers, I understand.
For sure.
What denomination was it?
Assembly of God. I grew up Assembly of God, but my parents grew up Pentecostal. Pentecostal is very strict. It's where you see the women with no makeup, big bangs, jean skirts, and keds, you know. Assembly of God is a little more, I guess at the time for the 70s, was a little more hip. And my dad used to say it was because he felt like women should be able to wear whatever they wanted to, and especially makeup. His phrase was, if the barn needs a painting, you go ahead and paint.
He liked the makeup, huh?
Yes, he did.
That's a clue about his orientation.
Yes, indeed.
But so your family was pretty religious.
Absolutely, yes. I was in church, 6 days a week.
Oh, my goodness. Really thick, in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And so when you came out, you had to draw a few lines.
But fortunately, there were various situations that came up, you know, through childhood that kind of like, that communicated, whether that was the case or not at the time, but communicated to me that I was separate. And so in that regard, boundaries became like a natural thing for me for protection, if for nothing else, you know, and for identity. I'm not built to be a person who lives in a closet. So once I came out to myself, I wasn't.
Tammy, that's the damn truth. So by the time you were like 20 or 21, you were in St. Louis?
Oh, yeah. I've lived in St. Louis my whole adult life.
Were you up into the Ferguson thing?
No, I did not end up in Ferguson. I was downtown during the Stockley business that first day when the verdict came in. And that was a horrible thing to see. And then the days following that, just living every day with a knot in your stomach, wondering. I actually remember I was on my way into work and somebody posted video. It was like at the mall, and somebody posted video of protesters being beaten by cops. And Chris was on the video I was watching. I'm looking at this video and I see those lavender overalls. And I see his glasses go flying, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Chris. Oh my God,
it's Chris. For people who don't know, Chris was our keyboard player in Lavender Country. He was very up into the Ferguson thing, and he got his ass beat by the cops and went to jail and blah, blah, blah. They subjected him to the same knee in the neck thing that killed George Floyd. So he knows about that. We're going to be... Do you want to just tell folks in 30 seconds or less who might not know, what was Ferguson?
Mike Brown, a teenage kid, was walking to a convenience store, whatever the hell happened. Somebody said he stole something, or he stole something, or I don't even know still what the hell happened. But somebody called the cops showed up, and they killed the kid. The kid didn't resist arrest. It was somebody saying that somebody did something else, and then the cops show up and shoot because they feel like they can get away with some bullshit. And then they left the kid's body in the street. It was like sundown. He was just laying in the street. Wouldn't let his mom take his body. Everybody just watching this kid lay in the street. Dead.
For hours, right?
For hours, yeah. Like to make some kind of point. It wasn't like, oh, we don't know what we're going to do. It was almost like they were guarding it to make it a spectacle. And that, certainly was not the beginning, but it was definitely a highlight in what we're dealing with police in this city and this county.
Well, Ferguson tore up the town for a long time, and
Yeah.
other Lavender Country folks were up into that, maybe a little more than you were. Jack was there, Chris was there, Dominique, I think, was there.
Yeah.
Julia was up into all that. So I got my Lavender Country crew out of Ferguson.
Yeah. I ended up downtown for the Stockley garbage. And I mean, there's so much watching that whole shit show, just like with Ferguson, it's like, if only, and they just keep repeating the same mistake. One shitty cop does something terrible. He's not actually a cop. He's a fucking criminal. One criminal in blue does something terrible. And instead of the people who are supposed to uphold the law saying, you're a fucking criminal, they're like, no, that's our brother. And they defend it. And that is the problem. It's
that
universal.
Is the problem, all right.
You don't recognize your mistakes, you're doomed to repeat them, and that's what keeps happening. And what these people don't see is, I've been thinking about it a lot. It's blasphemy is what it is. And, biblically, well, the Bible says, blasphemy is the one sin that can't be forgiven. And you know why? Not because you can't be forgiven for it, but because you don't fucking recognize it. And this behavior, it's blasphemy. They are not calling murder, and they're not calling criminals, because they're wearing the same outfit. That's fucking blasphemy. I'm sorry. But how different would it have been if in Ferguson or with the Stockley verdict, when we're all downtown, hot as shit, we're all completely disappointed, brokenhearted that this is happening. This idiot cop is this criminal murderer cop is getting off scot-free. What if the cops had come out and said, we're just as mad as you are. He's criminally broke the law. And now he's made our lives more dangerous because of his stupid ass behavior. And they fucking handed out water bottles instead of showing up in riot gear. Instead of like all of us white people to the front and putting our bodies between the riot cops and brown bodies. That's what happened downtown. And that's what keeps happening. Because if we're not there, white people need to be at these protests. And it's ridiculous that I'm saying this right now when I'm sitting safely in my home. But white people need to be at these protests, because when we're not, George Floyd happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's happening now.
Absolutely. In the 80s, I was involved in a movement to stop a police precinct being built in the Black community. And we were having meetings about it, and it involved the takeover of this small apartment building, which was on the site of where they wanted to build the precinct. And we were having the meetings, and we were going to take over the building. And we were sitting there with this is a very clearly black-led thing. And, the folks said, well, who should take over the building? 3 or 4 of us, timidly and shitting our pants, said, well, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Right. And then
Yeah.
the response to that from the Black leadership in the meeting was, great, good, perfect. You go in there and get your ass thumped for a minute. That would be a real change.
Yeah.
So we did, and we expected to get our asses thumped like they had all been happening to them.
Yeah.
And the police wouldn't touch us.
That's
I wonder
the
why,
thing.
right?
Absolutely.
So that putting a white buffer between the police and the Black activists is a very thoughtful and vital tactic. They're afraid to beat us up.
Yeah, because someone will actually pay attention to that.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned that. I learned that tactic back then. It's a very unnecessary tactic. It's, to me, very heartening how many white activists have actually joined and put their bodies on the line for the whole police brutality issue. That was very, very difficult in the 80s to actually get white people to turn out in droves. But that's changed. And it's really made a marked difference.
People want to do something,
Yeah.
especially now. Everybody feels so fucking helpless. So when you spell out very clearly something that you can do, great, I'll be right there. We
had a little chat about fascism.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not everybody, it's something that everybody feels, but it's not all that talked about yet.
People keep throwing the word around here and there, but it's like a buzzword. It's like an MTV thing right now. It's like a cool thing to say when it's actually what's happening to us and how Trump, I hate even to say Trump because, as we talked about, I don't feel like Trump is Hitler. I feel like we're dealing with a different animal here. Animals is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with 100 Hitlers. And these 100 Hitlers put this idiot, this buffoon up front as a red herring to distract everybody. Well, these 100 Hitlers dip their toes in the proverbial Sudetenland. They're just dipping the toe in the water. It's 1932. We're nowhere near 1941 right now, but we're getting real close. Hitler found these people who didn't have a whole lot of education, who had felt persecuted after World War I with Wilson's brilliant plan to basically make Germany feel like dog shit. Hitler came and said, here is some pride. Here is a way to make money. Here is a way to find yourself again. And that's what's happening with Donald Trump and these fools who are falling for it. We have all these racists who are pissed off that Obama ran shit for 8 years and they don't have access to things, maybe because they're not necessarily even fighting for those things. But now they can find pride again. Now they're grabbing their AKs and they're storming the Capitol and they're fighting for something that is absolutely against what they have been crying about this whole time. Hello.
Yeah, she just wants to be part of the action, that's all.
Yes,
she has something to say too. What's her name?
Barbara Streisand.
All right, Barbara Streisand.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Barbara.
She's my little bat monkey.
Yeah. So what do we do about this rise of fascism? Do you have any ideas about that?
I mean, resist. That's what we do. And I mean, we talk vote blue. Well, that's kind of the only option we have right now. But everybody wants to complain about the candidate that they have in this huge election. If you're going to bring in a third party, You're going to bring in grassroots. You're going to bring in somebody new who is not one or the other. Start there. I don't care if it's the comptroller or if it's the alder person. Like, people aren't showing up until like every 4 years or every 2 years. No, you show up and you work.
I have a transgender fuck friend in Indianapolis who is by day is a straight looking man, white teacher. People know who he is. He's very outspoken. At night, he gender fucks all of Indianapolis. And his idea, and he's going to do it, is to run for school board.
Fucking perfect.
Yeah, perfect. He's an example of what can be done. It's sort of like the socialist that we have on city council in Seattle. And she's very outspoken. She's very independent. She's very third party. She belongs to Socialist Alternative and wouldn't dream of being a Democrat, and wins. She's been on city council for years now. She's very popular. She's Middle Eastern. Amazon went after her tooth and claw in the last election, and they put up $1 billion against her and did this smear campaign from one side of the town to the other. And they were just out to myrtleize her, and she won anyway. And we need to be doing that more and more. We need to be talking about third party more and more.
Absolutely. And starting small.
Every time you open your mouth and say something political, I fall in love with you, Melinda. You're just really, really sharp at it. And I know you just think you're one of the cog, and honey, so am I. And I know that you have a lot of respect for me and blah, blah, blah. We've talked about that before. But hey, turnabout's fair play. I think we went over everything that's on my list. Do you have anything you want to say?
I do want to say that to whomever is watching and has not yet been to a Lavender Country show, it's definitely a place you want to be at least at one point in your life. I mean, if you can go to many, definitely do that. But don't let your life go by without having gone to one. It's especially for a person who doesn't feel like they have a place. That can definitely be where you find your place. Every night, especially that very first tour, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4 nights, boom, every night was like going to church. You know, I would look across the stage at Dominique and at Jack, and we would all be crying, like every night. I cannot stress enough. Quit your job if you have to. If you can't get out of work to get there, quit your job. There will be another job. There may not be another Lavender Country show passing through your town. Go. You got to be there, because we spend our lives feeling like we are on the outside for the most part, or for a good percentage of the time as queer humans on this planet. And that is a place where you feel like you are truly with family. Just the same as marching in the street. It's the same thing. It's people.
It's the same activity. Yeah, it really is. And when people go to a concert, that's not what they think they're going to walk into. But when they show up, then they find out that Lavender Country's a lot more than a concert.
You snooze, you